Sargasha Sthanam Poshana Uthaya Manvantaru Shanukatha Nirodha Mukti Ashraya. So, when Sukdev Goswami started speaking the Bhagavatam, he pretty much till the 7th canto of the 12 cantos, he was speaking about the first one, Swambhu. And for some reason it's justified because Sarga, the primary creation, Visarga, the secondary creation, that happened during the reign of the first Manu. In fact, Visarga kind of ends with the appearance of Swambhu Manu. Then Sthanam is the creation of the planetary system by Brahma. So once the jivas are there, they need a place to live also. So the whole 14 planetary system with the help of Garbhodakshay Vishnu, or the other way, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, with the help of Brahma creates all the 14 planetary system. Then Poshanam, which is the protection provided by the Lord, 6th canto, mostly dealing with Poshanam, the various personalities that at different points of time are protected by the Lord. Then Utaya is interesting. So Uti means impetus. Impetus is like energy to do something, and Utaya is like plural. So, and this we see in our lives. So if you have an impetus, we can channel it to do something creative or something destructive. And in the 7th canto, we see both of that happen. So 7th canto is famous for the pastime of Lord Nrsingadeva and Prahlad Maharaj, and we see that Hiranyakashipu uses his energy for destruction, and Prahlad Maharaj uses his energy for positive, for creation. Right? So 7th canto is mostly talking about Utaya. Now, Parishit Maharaj is getting worried at this point of time. So he has 7 days total. It's not clear how many, but he is definitely in his fourth day or so. And he has little time to go. And he's like, we're still in the first Manvantara. Right? So in a day of Brahma, there are 14 Manus, 14 Manvantras. And Parishit Maharaj, including us, we are in the reign of the 7th Manu. So he's thinking that Sukdev Goswami is still speaking about the first Manu. There are 6 more Manus to speak about. And there's not much time left. And then there's another reason also, that he wants Sukdev Goswami to quickly come to the 7th Manvantara. Anyone can guess why does he want him to come quickly to the 7th Manvantara?
Krishna's appearance.
Very good. Because Krishna appears there, and he's very anxious to hear about the pastimes of Krishna. So Parishit Maharaj is a near contemporary of Krishna, right? Because Parishit Maharaj is the son of Abhimanyu, Abhimanyu is the son of Arjuna, and Parishit Maharaj had actual darshan of Krishna. And when he was in the womb of his mother Uttara, then Ashwathama had cast the Brahmastra to kill him, and then Krishna personally enters the womb of Uttara to protect Parishit Maharaj. Right? So he has personal darshan of Krishna, and he has heard about the pastimes of Krishna from his mother Uttara. Right? He's heard so many pastimes, but he wants to hear it from Sukdev Goswami. So that's another reason he's anxious. So he begins the 7th canto, the 8th canto, by saying that, now can you tell me a little bit about the other Manus? Right. And Sukdev Goswami says, okay. Right. And so then he starts going through the different Manvantras. And he goes through fairly quickly. Unlike the first Manu, occupies 7 cantos. The other manus, they occupy, each one of them is a few verses he speaks about. Then the second manu that appears is Varosha, the son of Agni. Then during the reign of the first manu, Swayambhavu Manu, he had 5 children. He had 2 sons and 3 daughters. So, anybody know the names of the sons of Swayambhavu Manu? Priyavrata and Kanpa. Right? So he had 2 sons and 3 daughters. Prasuti and Devi. Right. So, Uttanpad is famous because of his son. His son is the great Dhruv Maharaj. And Priyavrata is famous because he essentially created the Bhumandal, as he carved the Bhumandal, so to speak, and created or carved the Bhumandal. So Priyavrata had 3 sons, and the 3 sons become the manus in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So 3rd is Uttama, 4th is Tamasa, and the 5th is Revat. Revat Manu's daughter Revati later on marries Lord Balram. So Sukadeva Goswami is going quickly through this, and then he says, and he's giving a few highlights. So when he's speaking about the Tamas Manu, he says that during the reign of Tamas Manu, the Lord appeared by the name of Hari. And the name of his parents were Harimeda and Hari. And he saved an elephant. Right. And then he's ready to go forward, and Parikshit Maharaj raises his hand. Stop, please stop. So he says that, what is this about the Lord saving an elephant? Right? And then he says, Itaya. Itaya means, he says that, I want to hear about it again. So Acharyas say that it's not that Parikshit Maharaj had not heard about the pastime, but the pastime is so sweet that he says that I want to hear about it again. And he gives 4 reasons. He says because of punya, because it gives purity, and then he says dhanya. So dhanya means wealth, but Parikshit Maharaj is dying in a few days. What is his wealth? His wealth is Krishna consciousness. So he says health. Then he says for health, that for good fortune, and Mangalgata, that for all auspiciousness. And so that's the reason that the Gajendra Moksha Katha is so famous. Right? So, of all the prayers, so the Bhagavatam is full of prayers. Like hundreds of prayers literally in the Bhagavatam. In the 5th canto, you see that after the universe is described, the construction of the universe is described, and Sukadeva Goswami immediately starts speaking about what the residents in the various parts of the universe are doing. In the upper planetary, lower planetary system, what are they doing? And what are they doing? They are all reciting prayers to Krishna. So there's prayers after prayers from Kumpura, Swargalok, different lokas. The prayers are there. And there are other prayers. What are some of the other prayers from the Bhagavatam? I'll say the prayers of Queen Kunti because everybody says that. So I'll take that one. What's some of the other prayers?
Lord Brahma.
Lord Brahma's
Lord
prayer.
Brahma's prayer.
Lord Brahma's prayers. Very nice prayers by Lord Brahma.
Indra's prayer. Lord Indra praying to
Indra's prayers in the temple.
God.
Yeah. Gopi Geet. Gopi Geet is very, very famous. So, Prahlad Maharaj's prayers. Prahlad Maharaj's prayers. 7th canto, 9th chapter. Very, very wonderful. One of the most read and analyzed prayers, Prahlad Maharaj. there's praise by Brahma in the 10th canto, 14th chapter. And Brahma, being Brahma, speaks very, very scholarly words, but very sweet also. But the acharyas say that of all the prayers, if there is one prayer that you should recite on a daily basis, it's the Gajendra Moksha. And if you have to recite two prayers, what's the second prayer? They say you have to recite. You should recite Gopi Geet. So Gajendra Moksha, the stotram is especially sweet because the predominant mood is Dainyam. Right? It very much resonates with our mood. That we'll speak about that. I think today we won't speak about the prayers. We'll speak about it in the next meeting. Today we'll speak about the pastime more so. But sufficient to say that Gajendra Moksha Katha and Gajendra Moksha Stotram, they're very potent. And that's one reason that there are so many lectures and discussions and so many singers sing it. So the pastime. So when Parikshit Maharaj says to Sukadeva Goswami, "Tell me about the pastime." So the pastime begins with Sukadeva Goswami speaking about an elephant in a forest in a planet, on a planet, not the Earth planet, on some planet. Right? He says that on that planet that was made famous by the Trikuta mountain. So Trikuta means 3 peaks. So it had 3 peaks, one of gold, one of silver, and I think one of copper. And that particular place is surrounded by the ocean of milk. Now, Sukadeva Goswami does not say where it is, but of course, this is fodder for acharyas, right? To try to figure out where it is. So if you look at the structure of the universe, there are 14 planets, and we are in the middle planetary system that's known as Bhumandal. So Bhumandal is like a disk. It's floating on the Garbhodakshaya ocean, on the ocean created by the perspiration of Garbhodakshaya, Vishnu, called the Garbhoda ocean. And within the disk are 7 concentric circles. And each of the circle is known as a dvipa, or an island. And each of them, so dvipa, at least in Sanskrit, is a piece of land. I know in more contemporary context, dvipa is a land that is surrounded on 4 sides by water. But in the Vedic understanding, it is surrounded on 2 sides by water. So dvi means 2 and pa means drinks water. It's surrounded by water on 2 sides. So these concentric rings are, there's basically a ring and then an ocean, a ring and an ocean. So that's how Bhumandal is there. So at the middle of the Bhumandal is the dvipa known as Jambudvip. At the middle of Jambudvip is a mountain known as Meru or Sumeru, that is 100,000 yojanas tall. Right. So 1 yojana is 8 miles, so 800,000 miles. And Mount Sumeru kind of aligns itself with the axis of the universe. At the top of Mount Sumeru is the residence of Brahma. Right? One of his residents. Brahma lives further up in Brahmalok, but going to Brahmalok is very difficult. Also, going there is very dangerous because time moves very quickly over there. If you're there for a second, you come back, then basically millions of years have gone. So Brahma basically has another office, so to speak, on the top of Mount Meru, and that's where the devas and all that go to meet him, same time zone, so to speak. And Mount Meru is made of solid gold. Now Meru is surrounded by a mountain range, and there is an outer mountain range known as Keshachal mountains. So one of the mountains in the Keshachal is known as Trikuta. And Trikuta receives, so when Ganga falls into the universe, when it falls into Bhumandal, it actually falls on top of Mount Meru and divides in 4 directions. So one of the folks that is known as by the name Sita, it falls on Trikuta mountain, the Keshachal range. So that description seems to align. The only problem is that Jambudvip is surrounded by a portion of salt water. Right. So some say that even though it's surrounded by salt water, because Ganga is surrounding it, Ganga is like milk. Right. So one could say that. Now other acharyas say that if you go further out, then there is an island by the name of I forget the name, but there is an island that is actually surrounded by ocean of milk. Right, and they say that this pastime actually took place over there. So and this is just it adds to the sweetness of the pastime, but does not change substantively whether it took over there or here. It does not change substantively the content of the pastime. So what is happening over here? That there is an elephant that is moving through the jungle, and Sukadeva Goswami, he speaks at least 4 or 5 verses describing the jungle of this area. He talks about the trees, the creepers, the flowers, speaks about the animals over there. Now, one point to reflect over here is that Sukadeva Goswami was very much on a fixed time schedule. That he knew Parishad Maharaj had limited amount of time. Parishad Maharaj was eager to get as much nectar as possible. Why would he spend 4 or 5 verses, even though assuming he was speaking fast, but why would he spend 4 or 5 verses describing the different kind of trees and why? I mean, he describes the species of the trees, the flowers. Why would he spend time and energy describing all this? Why do you think?
Building up his eagerness to hear.
Eagerness to hear? Okay, that's a good point. What else?
Wherever we go, however beautiful the place is, misery is still there in between.
The who's still there?
Misery.
Misery is still there.
Suffering.
Okay.
To perhaps help with the setting of the scene and also the size of the tree. Sometimes the trees are described as
Your sense of magnitude.
magnitude.
Yeah. True. Also, because think of it from Sukadeva Goswami's perspective, he's a pure devotee. He's looking at that area where he knows that the Lord is going to come. So for him, it is a place of pilgrimage. Right. So it is now a place of holy pilgrimage. So when Lord Hari came over there, it's not that he just liberated Gajendra. He liberated the crocodile. He liberated each and every tree, each and every creeper over there. That's the mercy of the Lord. So when Sukadeva Goswami is looking at them, he is looking at pure devotees that are over there. Now currently they are at least in the past time, they're in a covered state, but he's looking at it from the perspective of where they will be, right? So that's why, with so much of pleasure, he is describing the beautiful plants and the creepers and the nature of the rocks, the water flowing over there. And in the midst of this is Gajendra going, our elephant, who's the king of the elephants over there. And as he is traveling through the forest, Sukadeva Goswami mentions that he's so big that just by his bodily movement, the whole Trikuta mountain range is shaking. Now Trikuta is 1,000 yojanas tall, 8,000 miles tall, made of solid metal, gold, silver and copper. So one can imagine the magnitude of the size of Gajendra. And by the reverberation of his feet, the whole jungle was put into chaos. So he mentions that out of the fear of the sound of Gajendra, even fierce animals like lions and tigers and bears, they ran away. So when he was walking, his sound was like roaring, and the lions were thinking that another lion has come here, and they started roaring, saying this is my territory. But when they heard the roar of coming from Gajendra, they realized that this is obviously a much more powerful lion, and they quietly went away. And then there were another class of animals like the deer and the goats, and they were very happy that Gajendra was going. Why do you think they were happy?
Because their enemies are
Huh?
away.
Because they can be saved by.
They're safe now, right?
They're safe.
So the lions have run away, so they're safe. Right? So that's the nature of a material phenomena. That it creates happiness in somebody, it creates distress in somebody. One man's something is something else.
Food is another man's poison.
One man's food is another man's poison, right? So, so the deers and the sheep and the goats, they're very happy. They're also happy that Gajendra is uprooting all those trees, they can eat it. So they have access to the nice leaves and the fruits, etc. that he's creating. So as he is going, so it's described that Gajendra is being agitated by many things. He's agitated by the heat. He's agitated by his own musk. And so when the elephants are in heat, then they secrete a secretion somewhere around the ear, and it agitates them. Well, it's also a signal that they are ready to mate. So he's very, very agitated, and as they are going, they begin to smell fresh water. So they head towards a pond, a sarovar, and the sarovar is filled with pure water. It is cool. It had water lilies and lotus flowers. So Sukadeva Goswami describes the lotus flower because it has relevance later on in the past. And he plunges into this sarovar, and his whole massive body is so big that the whole water becomes, it's like you put a huge boulder into the water, the whole water gets agitated. And after he is drunk, he has taken a bath, his wives, his friends, children, they all enter into the water, and they're all sporting in the water. Gajendra himself is taking water in his trunk and is spraying it on his children and his wives, and everybody's having fun. So everybody is having fun with the exception of one person, which is our friend the crocodile who's in the water, right? He's really upset because the water is his territory. Right? So just like Gajendra is the king of the forest, the crocodile is the king of the Sarovar. And as he sees the water getting more and more agitated, and then he zeroes in on Gajendra, that he is the person who's creating the most disturbance. So he goes and catches the foot of Gajendra. And so it is said that that death catches, first it catches our feet. And that's the nature of material existence. That people, when they're nearing their end, then it becomes difficult for them to walk. And then it basically goes up from there. Right? So Gajendra, in Sanskrit, a crocodile is known as a grihi. A grihi is because grihi means to take. So the crocodile's grip is, the bite is one of the strongest in the animal kingdom. And once he holds something, almost impossible to get out of it. So when the crocodile catches the feet of Gajendra, then for a while there's chaos everywhere. Right? Gajendra tries to pull himself out, and the crocodile tries to pull him back in. There is this tug of war going on. Gajendra is very strong, but he's in water. Right? So he's not in his natural element. And the crocodile, not as strong as Gajendra, but in water, in his natural element. Right? So this is one of the lessons that is also given to devotees. That if you want to flourish in your devotional service, be in your element. Right? So everybody cannot execute devotional service in the same way. Right? Everybody has a different nature. Pravriti is different. You know. Some people are more scholarly inclined, some people like to sing, some people like to cook, some people are in management, some people like to do book distribution. There's literally millions of ways in which Krishna can accept service. But the secret of success is that one finds a service that resonates with their nature, even though it's material nature. But the reality is that's our adhikar right now. That we are in the material world, we have a material body, we are subject to the modes of material nature. So until the time that we are advanced enough to transcend the modes, that's the reality. Right? That we are a product of the modes. So how do we make the best of a bad bargain? Is to use it optimally. Then understand what your nature is and execute service accordingly. Right? And the example that is often given is that of Gajendra and the crocodile. So even though Maya may be stronger than us, like Gajendra was much stronger than the crocodile. But the crocodile was in its element. Right? So as long as we stay true to our nature and then use that to serve the Lord. Now, of course, there are some things that are foundational. Right? I remember I was having this discussion once, and the person I was talking to said, what you're saying is so true, I just can't chant. And I was saying, that part you can't compromise. So chanting you have to do, regardless of what your nature is. Now again, chanting, different people chant differently. There are some people who like to sit in one place and peacefully chant. Some people like to walk. and some people like to chant in batches of 4. Some people like to chant in early morning. So that you can do, right? So there is no hard and fast rule that you have to chant this way and that way and etc. But chanting is foundational. We build that via devotional service. But other than the basic foundational elements like chanting, the regulative principles, there are so many opportunities that devotees get to do service. Right? And then as they understand what works for them according to their nature, as they pick services, then they'll begin to enjoy it. And there is a reciprocation that comes from Krishna also. So back to Gajendra. So he's in the lake, and for a while he's surrounded by the herd of elephants. Other elephants, they try to pull him out, but they fail. His wives, they are standing there lamenting, crying, helping him, but nobody is able to help them. And eventually, they all leave. Right? And that's the nature of death. That regardless of how many people you have, you die alone. Right? So it's always, the last mile is always the most solitary mile. So it's not that Gajendra's herd, the other, they were selfish or they were uncaring, but they couldn't do anything. They tried, but they couldn't do anything. Right? So they left. So this is the realization that so Srila Prabhupada would say that one has to develop a certain amount of selfishness in advancing in Krishna consciousness. Right? Because of this reason, that one will die alone. Right? Regardless of how much you do for people around you, for your family and friends, a charitable organization, for the country, society, all that's good. But none of them will be there at the last moment. At the last moment, it's just you, and depending on your consciousness, there is either the Yamadutas or the Vishnudutas. Right? But it's just you. So Prabhupada will say, be aware of that. It's going to be just you. Yeah, because many times people say, especially in India, that when I retire, I'll practice. Right now, I'm too busy taking care of friends and family. But you never know when the crocodile will come and catch your foot. Right? So Gajendra is all by himself, and for 1,000 years they are locked in this stalemate. That the crocodile is trying to pull Gajendra. Crocodile's plan of action is that I can pull him in the deeper part of the water and drown him. Okay. And Gajendra's plan of action is I can take the crocodile to the land and stomp on him. Right? And essentially it's a stalemate. Right? And Gajendra is trying to pull him out, the crocodile is trying to pull him in. For 1,000 years, this happens. And this becomes so much so, all the demigods, they are watching. So, earlier on, when Sukadeva Goswami was glorifying this forest, then he mentions that how different personalities would come and sport over here, because it was so beautiful over here. Like he mentions that the Siddhas, the Charans, the Vidyadharas, the Apsaras, the Nagas, they would all come here and sport in the water or in the forest. So this was a place that was visited by the inhabitants of the middle planetary system. Right? So if you go up, there is the Om, Bhur, Swaha. So Swaha is the Swarg Lord. The Swarg Lord. Bhu is the Bhumanda, and Bhuva is the area in between. Right? And Bhuva is where these divine creatures live, who are higher than the human beings, but not as high as the demigods. So the Siddhas, the Charans, the Vidyadharas, the Apsaras, they live in this middle area. Right? And they would come here to stay. So it is said that the names of these, they are given based on the way that they execute devotional service. That the Siddhas, they meditate on the Lord. The Charans, they write poetry. Charans, they write poetry to glorify the Lord. The Gandharvas, they sing to glorify the Lord. The Vidyadharas, they have, so Vidyadharas are one who is Vidya, who's strong in Vidya, very knowledgeable. So they glorify the Lord through philosophical discussions. The Apsaras, through dancing, they glorify the Lord. Right? So that's why Sukadev Goswami's attention goes to them. And he's looking at them with the eye of a pure devotee. That this is how they glorify the Lord. But even above them are the Devas, like Indra, Vayu and Surya. They are looking at this thing happening, but none of them came to help. Right? And Radha Govind Maharaj mentioned because they are lazy. That's why they didn't come. They looked at it and they said, okay, these two creatures are fighting. Eventually one of them will die. But they weren't really worried about it. Now, eventually what happens is that Gajendra is becoming weaker and weaker. And he understands that the crocodile is getting stronger and stronger. Because it's a creature of water and his end is near. So, in desperation now, he begins to remember his previous life. So it's not that he said that now I will remember my previous life, but essentially by the mercy of the super soul, but he began to recollect his previous life. So who was Gajendra in the previous life? The Hindu Brahma, right? So it's mentioned that in the southern state of India, the king Indradumna, very pious king, very powerful king, and at one point he gave up his kingdom to absorb himself in devotional service. And then he was once performing bhakti, and there are few understanding of the incidents. One say that he was deep in meditation on the Lord and Agastya Muni came, and Agastya Muni got upset at him, saying that you haven't gotten up to address me. There are other explanations that say that Indradumna, he saw Agastya Muni but he closed his eyes, saying that he has come, I have to get up, give him water, give him food, so let me close my eyes and pretend that I'm busy meditating. And Agastya Muni being an advanced mystic, he understands the heart of Indradumna. Right? So he curses him. He's saying that you have this large body, but you're acting in such a dull way, so may you become an elephant. So in the body of Indradumna, he had performed so much devotional service that bhakti now resurfaced in his heart, right? And then he chants this Gajendra Stotra, which we will discuss next time. And I'll end with a little bit on the antecedents of the crocodile. Srila Prabhupada writes about it in the purport, that just like Gajendra in the previous line was King Indradumna, The crocodile in his previous life was a Gandharva by the name of Huhu. It's a strange name, not sure why I think that name, but so Huhu had a brother or a friend whose name was Haha. So it's mentioned that they were both a little, and there are a couple of versions of it. I can tell you they're interesting. So one version of it is that they were sporting in the water, and Deval Rishi had come to take bath over there. So who thought it'd be a lot of fun to prank him, so to speak. So when he was in the water, then Huhu went under the water and caught hold of his foot. And for a while, Deval Rishi was startled, and then he understood what was happening, and then he cursed him to become a crocodile. In Vishnu Dharmottara, there is a little bit more elaborate explanation of this pastime, that Huhu and his brother Haha, they were both like pranksters, so to speak. So they had set up this between them, that Huhu had taken the form of an elephant, the Gandharvas, the mystic powers. Huhu had taken the form of a crocodile, and Haha had taken the form of an elephant. And the thing was that when people would come, then the elephant would scare the person in the water, and the crocodile would scare the person out of the water. So between the two of them, they would scare the person in and out of the water, and they would laugh, right? So unfortunately, one day Deval Rishi came, right? And they did the same thing to Deval Rishi, that Haha, as the elephant, he charged to Deval Rishi, wrapped him in his trunk, he picked him up, twirled him around, put him down, so he ran into the water, and then Huhu as a crocodile jumped at him, so he ran out of the water. So this happened a few times, and then Deval Rishi realized that none of them are actually harming me. That the crocodile is biting me, but there is no bite marks. And the elephant is picking me in the trunk, but there is no constriction marks. Right? So there's something going on over there. Right? For a while he was just going with the flow, and then of course he's a mystic, so he understands who they are. So then he curses them that you're troubling people like this. So who he says you become a crocodile, and then how he says that because you raised me to such heights, in your next birth you will become a king that is very exalted. But after that you will become an elephant. So that's how our friend Haha, he first became King Indradumna, and then by the force of the curse, after King Indradumna, he became the elephant. And there was of course the curse of Agastya Rishi. So when Gajendra he recited his stuti, then Lord Hari came on Garud, right? And as I had mentioned, that he not only liberated the elephant, he liberated the crocodile also. So why did the crocodile get liberated? Because if you look at it, the crocodile was the enemy of the elephant, and Lord Hari was the friend of the elephant. So following the rule of the enemy of my friend is my enemy, the crocodile should have been the enemy of Hari. Why did Hari liberate the crocodile also?
Without the crocodile's efforts, he would not be playing that struggle, and so he approached the Gajendra approached the Lord because of his force.
So the crocodile. Okay. What else?
Because like Lord Krishna is like is equal to everyone, right? So
Equal to everyone.
so for him there is no enemy or no friend.
here as Deval Rishi's curse. They both got killed.
So the Deval Rishis.
Prabhu, is there something? Does it have something to do with the Lord coming as Hari? Because Hari takes
away.
Okay.
All good answers. Also because when Lord Hari saw the crocodile, it was holding on to the feet of Gajendra. He said, this person is holding on to the feet of my devotee. So, he is definitely, before Gajendra, he needs to be. So we may not have access to the Lord, but we have access to the lotus feet of his devotee. That is the easier way for us. Now, I don't recommend the same way. But in a more modern service, if you have access to the lotus feet of Lord's devotee, then that is actually a quick Prabhupada. Prabhupada once his disciples were complaining that Prabhupada, difficult to chant, difficult to do all this, mind is so busy, this, that, etc. And then Prabhupada said that all you need to do is hold on to my jyoti. Right? And I'll take you. I'll take you back. Yeah. One of the sannyas disciples of Prabhupada, so earlier on it happened quite a bit. So he was a sannyasi, but then he fell, he got married, he left, quietly he left. And then he wrote a letter to Srila Prabhupada saying that Prabhupada, I'm so sorry that I disappointed you, and the force of Maya is so strong, I just could not resist. And then Prabhupada wrote back to him saying that you should have come to me. He said, with one kick of my feet, I would have destroyed Maya. So the point Prabhupada made was that at least you could have tried to surrender to me. Right. And after that, I would have taken care of everything else. Right. So this notion of building our eligibility based on service to the devotees is essential in the Vaishnava theology. Right. So the Manjaris, they are not much interested in serving Krishna. Their main interest in serving the gopis. They're completely in the background. And they don't even see Krishna. They serve the gopis serve the other gopis serve Srimati Radharani serve Krishna. But they are glorified. That's the mood. Okay, so I'll stop over here, see if there's any discussion.
The king, Gajendra's past life, you mentioned Indurman. Is he the same king?
Different from Jagannath and different.
Thank you so much for that beautiful class, Prabhuji. Question, Prabhuji, like mind up.
Okay, no worries. Anybody else?
I was just wondering, so they were brothers, Bhuhu and Haha. So why is it that one got Bhuhu to be king in the Vidumna and then the elephant, and one got to be the crocodile? Like I as a parallel, I was thinking of Jaga and Madhai, and like one had the wherewithal to stop the other one from further hitting Lord Nityananda. So I was just curious why it happened.
So part of it is just the way that Deval Rishi, when he cursed them, he explained the curse. So one of them was an elephant, he cursed it to elephant. The other one was an crocodile, cursed to crocodile. But he did say the elephant was elevating him. Right, so he said that he will also be elevated. So that's how Haha got first the more elevated role of being a king and pious, and then by the course of the curse became an became an elephant. Ultimately, it was beneficial for both of them. Right? I mean, they lived a painful life, but ultimately it was beneficial. Now, why did they become inimical to one another? That was they were vicious. I mean, that he was upset at both of them. So that was just his anger manifesting, that you'll be inimical to each other.
Prabhuji, what's the significance of the Gajendra Sostra, you said, right? The sloka. Like, and also you mentioned from the Gopi Geet, right? The two things you mentioned. Like, why do you said people do every day? Or what's the significance of doing this? Benefit of it?
Yeah, good question. So,
Can you repeat the question for
so
a minute?
what is the significance of Gajendra Stotra and Gopi Geet? Right. So when we look at the Gajendra Stotra, we'll see that the situation that it describes is very, very, very similar to the situation of a materially embodied soul. The pain that he is going through, his inability to extricate himself by himself, and then the conclusion of it. Right, the fact that it ultimately evokes the mercy of the Lord. Right? So, while there are many prayers in the Bhagavatam, they are actually from a much more exalted platform that most of us cannot relate to. But when we talk about exalted prayers, there is none that is more exalted than Gopi Geet. That is at the other end of the spectrum. So if you look at the praise in the Bhagavatam, Gajendra is one who is completely materially trapped in material. And Gopi Geet is the pinnacle of service, of spiritually liberated soul. So it's said that Gajendra Stotra is recited to pray to the Lord to extricate from a current situation. The Gopi Geet is recited to pray to be able to serve them in the service to the Lord. So one is, take me out of this material world. Now Gajendra had no idea of the spiritual world, right? All he's saying is, this is a terrible situation I am in. Please take me out. He doesn't even say the name of Lord Vishnu. He doesn't know. He doesn't say the name of Lord Vishnu, right? All he's saying, I'm in a terrible situation. Yeah, take me out. That's what we are in. And Gopi Geet is perfected souls. Right? So that is aspirational. One is the present situation where we are, and the second is where we aspire to be. That's why it said that but amongst the two, Gajendra is more recommended to be. I heard one person saying that. So it takes about 7 minutes to it's 8th canto, 3rd chapter from verse 2 to 29. So 28 verses takes about 7 minutes. One person was saying that you can recite it in the shower because Gajendra is in water. Okay.
Prabhuji, once I heard Prabhuji, like only Gajendra was liberated, but who went back to the Gandharvaloka. So is my understanding is incorrect or different Puranas says in different way? Or
I had also heard that. So question is that it's mentioned that Puhu or the crocodile, he resumed his as a Gandharva, right? At least the way that I reconcile it is very similar to in the Damodar Leela when the Yaman Arjun trees are uprooted. Then the two sons of Kuber, both is said that they are restored to their position as Deva, as demigods, and they are liberated also. So the way I understand is that they became restored as devotees, and they executed devotional service and then got liberated. But no specifics there. But that seems to be the general understanding. that they were restored as the crocodile resumed his position as a Gandharva, and having received the mercy of the Lord, then perfected his life and went back to God.
Thank you so much. That's right. So I was wondering, you mentioned the idea that we have to be a little selfish in our spiritual life. And also Srila Prabhupada mentions that the most important principle is to save yourself in spiritual life and fly your own airplane, all these, I guess they're similar, the same idea. So I was wondering that, but also we rely on the mercy of devotees at the time of death, before that, and as we are leaving our body, we hopefully can remember our spiritual master and Srila Prabhupada, Lord Krishna by their mercy. So I was wondering, how to see them both, because, I'm dying alone, yet I'm dependent on the mercy of the devotees. So how is it that I'm flying my own airplane, whereas also totally dependent on the mercy of the devotees?
Thank you. It's a very nice question. So when Prabhupada says that, you're alone and it's up to you at the time of death, this is the mechanism of dying. Right? So when he says dying alone, doesn't mean that you forget about everything and just focus on yourself. What is it that you practice to be ready at the time of death? These things that you said, the ability to chant the Lord's name, think of the Guru Maharaj, and surround yourself with devotees. The concept of selfishness in spiritual life is when it is contrasted to people who are taking the position of being selfless in material life. So better to be selfish in your spiritual life than be selfless in your material life. But selfishness in spiritual life does not mean that you are selfish, that okay, I need mine, not that. It just means that I focus on developing my spiritual life, and the way that you develop your spiritual life is like you said, practice chanting the holy name, try to serve devotees as much as possible, try to give your mercy to devotees, try to take mercy of devotees so that they are there to help you. That's all part of your cultivation of your spiritual life.
Okay. So then how do I understand this statement that, we're flying our own airplane? That sort of seems like, to me it seems like, okay, you have the mercy of devotees, but there's something that, you have to be responsible for. So I was just trying to properly understand that statement in the context.
So think of it this way. How would you get the mercy of the devotees? Right? You fly your own airplane, but your airplane is serving other devotees.
Okay.
That's how you get the mercy of other devotees. Right? It's not that you sit like this and say, okay, all of you guys, mercy. So mercy is at least opening your heart. And devotees by nature are merciful, they would still give you. But at least you have to open your heart to it. So that's flying your own airplane. Right? It's incumbent upon you to make that effort to attract the mercy of the devotees.
Okay.
Right? To worship the deities, to serve your Guru Maharaj, that's incumbent on you.
Okay.
Right? As opposed to people saying that, if there is a God, then, like Amitabh Bachchan says, right? If there is a God in the temple, he should do this, right? And, think about it. What has God got to do? You just come and challenge God. There was this communist in South India. I think his name was Lenin, and he was like a big atheist, and he would give these political speeches, saying that if there is a God, let him strike me down right now. And he would stand there. I'm challenging you, God. If you are there, strike me down right now. Right? And ultimately he died. He died of whatever. But it's like, you know, me going to White House and saying, if there is a president here, he should come and punch me. He's not going to come. Of course, with Trump, you never know. But you know, it's not going to happen, right? More likely, somebody else will come and pick me and throw me out. Right? So making, you know, such statement, there's no, there's no value there. But the mercy of the devotees is something that it's a privilege that we earn. That's what Prabhupada says. That like example that he gives is the airplane example. Like Prabhupada was flying, and then the air hostess said that put the air mask on yourself first, and then on the wife, and then on the children. Right? So same concept there. That before you start to preach, at least you become a good devotee yourself. And how can you help others if you're not helping yourself?
Yeah. That's very helpful, thank you. Because I think there is some, like, I don't know, like, I've heard sort of the sentiment that maybe it's kind of, it can be taken a little isolationist way, that okay, I'm flying my own airplane. So, you know, but it's great to have that clear, that it's not that at all. It's, I have to use my free will to surrender or serve the devotees properly.
And honestly speaking, we do go through that stage, especially with the initial stage when we take to Krishna consciousness. We take those statements very seriously, saying that I have to fly my own airplane. So people distance themselves from their families, they reject their parents, and they start, you know, becoming very, very critical of everything. That's just an immature understanding of the principle.
A couple of points. So this pastime is in preparation of appearance of Lord Hari, like you explained earlier. Will you be covering the Lord Hari's description? Because I have not read or heard more about Lord Hari, like Krishna and Ram. So is there more details coming down the line?
Not much. Only thing is mentioned that he was the Yuga avatar in the mantra of Tamasman. Just like in our, so we are in the seventh mantra of Vyavastha Manu, and the Yuga avatar is Vamandev. So for every Yuga, there is a Yuga avatar. So he was a Yuga avatar at the time. There is also a humorous incident with respect to Lord Hari and Narad Muni. So Hari, like Sanskrit, it has many meanings. Like so, now this is not in Bhagavatam, it's in one of the Puranas. That Narad Muni once he got infatuated by a princess. So he went to a Swayamvar, wanted to marry, and then he wanted to improve his chances. So he prays to Lord Hari, saying that, "Give me a face like Hari." Now in Sanskrit, Hari means different words. Hari means lion also. Right? So in Vrindavan there's a pastime when Krishna comes and knocks on Radharani's door. She says, "Who's there?" He says, "I'm Hari." And then she says, "No lions allowed." Right? So he turns and Hari also means monkey. Right? So he gave him a monkey face. And then the next day the Swayamvar was there, and Narad Muni standing there thinking that I have the face of Hari. And of course the princess looked at him and then moved away. So he keeps following the princess around it. Maybe she hasn't seen her. And then he says, she doesn't, she laughs at him. So then he goes and looks at his face, he sees that he has the face of a monkey. So he gets very upset with the Lord and he curses him, saying that you gave me the face of a monkey, in one of your incarnations you have to depend on monkeys to help you. So that's Lord Hanuman, first time. Not much. Okay, so we'll end over here. Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. We'll do Damodar Ashtakam? No?
Yeah. It was not then it was Friedrich needs some
German guy. He said that, what is that? God is dead. Like something.
Yeah. Finish.